Good afternoon, everyone. It is, let me make sure my mic is working. Great. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Adam Haroon from Branding MD. I hope you're all having a great day so far. And I'm very excited to join all of you today for day number 3 of our August Marketing Academy, which is, I think, a very timely topic given what's happening in the economy right now. How to recession proof your practice, right? There's a lot of talk of a coming recession, lots of stuff happening with tariffs and stock market things. So, if we are heading towards a recession, which are we heading towards a recession? We'll talk about it. But if we are heading towards a recession, how can we help your practice stay above and really thrive even during challenging economic times? I think that's something a lot of practices are wondering right now. So again, today is really all about how do we recession proof your aesthetic practice, right? How do we create a situation where even in a challenging or down economy, your practice doesn't have to succumb to those effects and you can be one of those providers that not only weathers a storm, but really comes out ahead. So I think it's something that we really want to dive into and explore from several angles today. And just to give you an idea and dive right in of what we're going to be covering on today's webinar, I want to share some statistics with you about what might be happening in the near future with our economy, right? And if we do find ourselves in a recession, what does that really mean for your med spa? What does that mean for your aesthetic practice? And then I want to share some very tangible strategies that you can implement beginning right away that will really ensure that even in a more challenging economic situation, your practice can really come out ahead and even thrive. And then I really want to share how all of this has implications on your marketing and what you need to do now to really make sure that should we find ourselves in a lean economy, if you will, your marketing is really prepared to weather that storm. So really excited to dive in with you. I know some of you know and love me. Others of you are brand new to my content. So just to give all of you a quick introduction, my name is Adam Haroon. I am the managing director here at Branding MD. We are a strategic brand agency that works exclusively in the aesthetic space. And since starting this company, I've had the opportunity to speak for many industry vendors. I speak regularly for Allergan and Mertz. I've also spoken for BTL. And I'm very fortunate to be invited to conferences all around the world as a guest lecturer and faculty member. So there's really nothing I love more than sharing my expertise with people. And that's exactly what my goal is to do with all of you today. So I want to thank all of you for joining me. One thing I do preface many of my webinars with, I am a marketer and not a magician. So I'm here to share time-tested best practices with you. I'm not going to share any crazy fads or anything that's not going to work 6 months from now. And I don't have a silver bullet. There is no magic formula. All I have are proven best practices that are going to last your practice long-term and really pay dividends for many years to come. So if you're looking for a magic show, can't help you. But if you're looking for tangible action items and best practices, and really what we've seen working for our clients of all sizes and in many different markets, you're in the right place. So really glad to be diving right in. So, like I said, let's talk about this. Are we heading into a recession in 2020? What are people saying about the current economic, situation where we're heading? Right? There's all kinds of headlines about what's happening in the stock market. Right? There's a lot of things talking about, different tariffs between the U.S. and China, things of that nature. So, I just want to start by taking a quick look at what kind of the economic forecast for the coming year, the coming 6 months, really is according to experts in that area. So, to begin, Duke University and their CFO Global Business Outlook, in a study they did together, they found that 48.1% of U.S. CFOs, chief financial officers, believe that we're going to be in a recession by the second quarter of 2020. So that's almost half are pretty confident we're heading towards a recession. And of that same group, 69% are confident that, unfortunately, we'll probably be in a recession by the end of 2020, right? The end of next year. And this is actually the third consecutive quarter that we've been kind of hearing economists and CFOs really cautioning us that a recession is probably well on its way. And if we, look outside of North America and look at kind of a global aggregate of the CFOs there, in Europe, 63% think we're heading towards a recession. In Asia, 57% think we're heading towards a recession. And in Latin America, 52% think we're heading towards a recession, right? They're all forecasting some kind of economic downturn or slowdown during the next year in 2020, right? So not too promising. Another stat I wanted to share with you is Morgan Stanley, as you know, a leading global finance firm. They are saying, because of all these things that are happening with some international tariffs, they believe that early 2020, by then we could have a global recession arriving if this trend continues, right? And they basically said that that could occur as in as little as 3 quarters or 9 months, right? So the time to prepare for what could be an economic slowdown is really now, right? So knowing all of this, knowing we may be heading towards an economic slowdown or a downturn or a recession, whatever you choose to call it, what does that really mean for your aesthetic practice? And I want to share what might be a bit of a different perspective than one you're used to hearing on this. And that is that I believe there is actually, if you plan ahead and if you're very cognizant of what's coming down the pipeline, there's a lot of opportunity here for practices, right? When you think about it, cream rises to the top. That's an age-old expression I really love. And in a recession, it's those practices that are most well prepared, most innovative, and really most tenacious that are really going to be able to weather any economic storm we find ourselves facing and really thrive, even in a down economy, right? And as I'm going to touch on in a second, you'll find that even in an economic downturn, you might actually be able to rise above the noise in our industry like you haven't been able to before, because a lot of people pull back on their marketing. A lot of practices pull back on the marketing that they may be doing, which is, in my opinion, the wrong thing to do, but we'll talk about that in a second. And that means you just have so much less competition, and those practices that do that will really gain the attention of patients who are still looking for aesthetic procedures, right? So just to take this a step further, I would say the first step and the first strategy to really recession proof your practice is that you should always be marketing, right? Intuitively, companies completely nix their marketing in a down economy, right? But the thing is, if consumers aren't familiar with your practice and aren't hearing about it, even in a down economy, people to a certain extent are still going to be looking for what you have to offer, right? They can't do business with you, right? And like I said a moment ago, in a lean market, you need to remember that so many fewer practices are really going to be cutting back their marketing, doing less advertising, less promotion. And so not only will you distinguish yourself by being actively marketing, but again, you can rise above the fray so much more easily in a down economy. So if you are always marketing, you will make sure that you can still get that patient's attention no matter what the economy is doing, right? And this is a great opportunity to really explore paid avenues, right? In a recession, advertisers aren't selling as much space, so they may be able to cut you a deal in the traditional media sense. And even in the social media sense, you can definitely get much more innovative and really do some, creative things that maybe in a more crowded marketplace, you might not really have the opportunity to do or showcase. So you always still, even in a down economy, want to look at all of your different marketing avenues at your disposal. And based on who your best patients are and what your budget is, determine the right avenues for you. So step number one, and my first tactic to really recession proof your practice, is don't hold back on your marketing and don't stop marketing just because the economy might be in a downturn. My second tactic for you of how to really recession proof your practice is that you want to become a brand, and you really do want to do that quite quickly, right? So just to share some more interesting statistics on this idea with you is Brand Finance, by the way, is a global brand consultancy. They work with the world's blue chip companies, leading corporations, and every year they do a report. And they found that during the last economic downturn of 2008, 2009, it really spawned this new kind of brand that we hadn't seen before. And they refer to this as an alpha brand, right? These are those brands where buyers are turning to them for quality and really luxury, regardless of what the market circumstances are, right? So this, kind of bucks what we might intuitively think is the trend. And we would think consumers are looking for lower end products during a down economy, but it shows that oftentimes in certain market sectors, cosmetics being one of them, as you may remember me talking about in some of our past webinars, consumers and patients are really eager to indulge in quality and individualized experiences or couture in the world of fashion, right? So we want to turn your practice into a luxury brand. And just to give you an example from the last recession, and this is a really cool article. I would invite all of you to go Google this after this webinar. It's all about, and this is from ABC News in 2009, the last recession, right? It's all about how Hermes was actually really able to do quite well in a recession by really focusing on their highest end products, which are their bespoke leather handbags, right? So, Hermes makes a bunch of products, watches, perfumes, these different, items that really cater to more of the mass market. And indeed, in the last global financial crisis, buyers weren't looking for those products. Those parts of Hermes's business did indeed suffer during the last recession, right? But it was those luxury goods, it was those high-end goods that people turn to for quality and a customized couture experience. Their handbags, which, as you know, can easily be well over $10,000 or $15,000. Consumers clamored for those, right? And in doing so, Hermes was really able to weather the last economic storm, right? Which again might be counterintuitive, but it's very interesting to see this in practice, right? So, how do we create a luxury brand that does exactly what Hermes did in that example and really caters to the affluent customer, right? And you may remember, and we did a webinar on this a few days ago, how to really master the art of selling luxury, right? Um, in a recession, everyone is certainly impacted to some extent, but those people who are most immune to the recession are indeed, they're going to be the affluent, right? So is your practice doing things in such a way that is some really important questions to start asking yourself in that regard are, does your practice have a position in the marketplace that positions it as best in class, or are you kind of, just another aesthetic practice, just another surgeon, just another med spa, right? And on top of that, do your prices and the way you package your treatments and your procedures, do they really come across as a luxury, or are you trying to undercut prices and throw a bunch of stuff in and discount and really just devalue your offerings? Or are you really, again, going for that luxury and prestige positioning, right? A saying I love is a Rolex doesn't go on sale, right? And to give you an example, you may have heard me talk about if you've seen me speak in person or seen some of my other webinars, Louis Vuitton actually burns and incinerates their unsold merchandise because they would rather see their merchandise go to ashes than discount it and in turn devalue the cachet and really the, just the mystique and the prestige their brand has built over decades and decades, right? So you will never see a clearance sale at the Louis Vuitton store because, again, they know and they're resolute in the fact they're selling a luxury good. So another recession-proof tactic for your practice is understanding the fact that, sometimes in a down economy, you may have to do things in a little bit of a different way. And one of the ways you can see that reflected is that you may very well need what we call a longer marketing cycle, right? And let me explain what I mean by that, right? So right now, consumers are bombarded with messages, right? We see that, every time we walk outdoors, we see billboards, radio ads, LED displays, all these different ads, right? So we need to make sure that your practice is no longer just doing sporadic marketing action and thinking, as soon as you send out an email newsletter or an e-blast, people are going to, clamor to get your treatment, right? Not the minute you post something on social media, people are going to clamor for that, right? We really want to stop doing stuff and be much, much more intentional, right? So understand in a down economy, people are still buying, but it may take longer for them to really come to that purchasing decision. And we need to tailor our marketing and be much more intentional accordingly, right? So just to give you an idea here, this is what we call the buyer's pyramid, right? So we know at any given time, only about 3% of the audience who's exposed to your marketing is going to buy right away, right? The other 97% are somewhere from being open to it and considering it to not even thinking they're interested in it, right? So we need marketing that addresses patients at every phase of the patient's journey, right? And that's more important than ever, especially in a down economy, right? So to give you an example, let's look at the phases of the buyer journey. We can really sort this into awareness, consideration, and decision, right? So using the example of crow's feet, in the awareness phase, someone might know that, they've got crow's feet. People are telling them they look tired. They're looking older, all of this, right? But they don't know what causes crow's feet. They don't know what the solutions to crow's feet are. So at this phase of the buyer journey, our marketing and our education really needs to help them understand that, crow's feet are caused by muscle movement, and the solution to that is a neurotoxin, right? And then we have accordingly the right calls to action, whether it's a blog post or a patient guide or a video about crow's feet, maybe where your physician is talking about the condition. That's the awareness phase. We also have the consideration phase. And this is where, that same crow's feet patient, they know they're looking for a neurotoxin, but they're not sure if they want Botox Cosmetic or Xeomin or Dysport. They aren't sure, right? So they're looking at potential providers, and they're looking at potential solutions for their concern, right? So in this phase, we really wanted to build and establish the value that you have to offer. Testimonials are great for this. Your online reviews on Google, Yelp, Real Self, Facebook, all great for this, right? Your before and after galleries, incredibly valuable for patients who are in the consideration phase, right? And then finally, we have the decision phase. And this is where people are, saying, great, I want Botox Cosmetic, but do I want that from Dr. A or Dr. B, right? And based on that, they have a short list of practices, and it's our job to really invite them to take that next step, right? That's asking them to give us a call, speak with our patient concierge, come to our upcoming open house. And again, events, as with all of your other marketing, even in a down economy, that is something you should still be doing, right? So remember, in a down economy, not only should you not stop marketing, but you should actually aim to be more strategic, more creative, more intentional, and more frequent, right? Really making sure we have that longer buyer's cycle acknowledged, and our marketing is, really tailored to address that. So that's another really great tactic to recession proof your practice. Perfect. So, in addition to all of that, another thing we want to do is really make sure that we are adding value more than ever, right? In a down economy, it is not the time to start discounting, but it's definitely the time to start demonstrating the value that you can offer to your patients. I always like to say you can always add value, but you can never take it away, right? So it's a great opportunity to really showcase the value and educate patients on the great value that you offer with every procedure and treatment and the prices of those, especially for those subset of your patients who may be more price sensitive, right? So when we're looking to do that, I always encourage practices to look for things they can add that don't have a very high cost to provide to the patient, but to the patient, it's really high perceived value, right? So it could be something like a chemical peel or dermaplaning, or maybe a mini facial with, a sampling of your skincare range that you offer in the practice, right? Or maybe just throwing in a small skincare product that doesn't have a high cost of goods, right? What can you do to really set your practice apart and offer that price sensitive patient better value than anyone else in your regional market? Doing so during a down economy, you're going to be that practice that patients ultimately choose to do business with, right? So, adding value and showcasing the value that you have to offer are two very, very important strategies in a down economy, and to really make sure your practice comes out ahead even during a recession. And then my next tactic is really all about encouraging familiarity, right? And again, this goes back to what we've seen in past economic downturns, and that is people really like to focus on those things they enjoy doing with others, those things they're familiar with, and things they really love, right? Especially when we're in, a work climate that during a down economy can be very tense for many people. Familiarity is worth its weight in gold, right? So, how can we do things throughout your practice experience that really encourage familiarity, right? That could be things like doing a special monthly event, right? It could be little touches and extras throughout your patient experience, right? When someone comes in for a procedure or a treatment, right? It could be, doing things with a membership model that people can expect and look forward to different bonuses every month, right? Or different perks every month, right? Those are all some really great ways to build familiarity and make sure that even in a down economy, your patients look forward to coming to your practice, because ultimately it's a refuge from, the hectic nature and the very stressful nature of how life can be during a downturn in the economy, right? So that's another way to make sure that you thrive during a recession. So let's take a moment and kind of bring all of this together. What exactly is it that your practice can do to really come out ahead, even if we find ourselves in an economic decline? So, and just to recap these tips I shared with you, the first, that you want to make sure you're planning ahead and understand that yes, even in a down economy, there is still opportunity to be had, right? Second, you want to keep advertising. Even if your competitors are cutting back or getting rid of their marketing efforts altogether, it just makes it that much easier for you to rise above the fray. Another thing that's really important is understanding that When you become a luxury brand, you build prestige behind the brand of your practice. Patients are going to be loyal to that in any economic climate, right? And in addition to that, let's look at those patients who are least impacted by economic downturns, right? How do we focus on the affluent? How do we tailor our practice experience to them? How do we market to them, right? Really understanding that and mastering that and becoming a practice that isn't catering to the lower end of the market can be one of your best keys to really thrive during a down economy. And again, like I said, sometimes in a recession, it just means you're going to have to do things in a little bit of a different way, right? And when it comes to marketing, that means we probably will need a longer marketing cycle, right? So we never want to stop marketing. We just want to make sure that we have marketing for every phase of the patient's journey. And again, finally, always look to add value. And, more than ever, that's important in an economic decline, right? How do we really create high perceived value for the patient and showcase that value without really, augmenting or increasing our cost of goods sold? Anything we can do to do that will make sure that that is why patients will ultimately choose us over others, even if the economy isn't doing so well. So I hope you found those tips useful. I hope you can find some things in here that you can really start implementing now so that even if we do find ourselves in a recession in 6, 9 months, we make sure your practice is able to thrive. So on that note, I would just love to kind of, pose the question to all of you. Is your practice prepared for a recession, right? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't so ready yet. Either way, I think, if you take some of these steps from this webinar, you'll be well on your way. But if you want to take that a step further and kind of have a chat and see what's happening in your regional market economically, how would a recession impact your market? I'd love to have a chat with you, right? So we have a website, transformyourmedspa.com. You can schedule a time to speak with me personally, and I'm going to walk you through what I think is going well in your practice based on what I learn, where there are some opportunities, right? And if there is, by chance, somewhere we can help you and it's a fit for both of us, through the 16th, we are offering complimentary website makeovers to every new engagement, which is kind of, again, a really great value add on that topic. So again, I can't guarantee, if you are interested, we will about 30% of the practices I speak to. I'm happy to educate everyone, but when I, invest my resources and effort into working with a practice, I want to make sure it's a mutual fit. So if that's something of interest to you, go ahead and check out www.transformyourmedspa.com and we will get you on the calendar. So all of that said, I hope you learned something from today. I hope you found this valuable. Again, my name is Adam Haroon. I'm the managing director at Branding MD. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions, anything you'd like to know, and we will see you on our next webinar. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.